One thing I haven't really explored yet in this Game Boy Advance series are Japanese exclusive games. Like any Nintendo console, there are loads of names scattered through the library that never left Japan. The trick, as always, is finding the good ones amidst the hordes of average or worse. So far I've managed to find 2 such titles. One I'll bring you next week, and also this one. Well, actually, Densetsu no Starfy is the first in a trilogy of really cool little platformers, so I guess you could say I've managed to find 4. The legendary Starfy series didn't manage to make it to the West until the 5th entry, the second one to appear on DS, but its origins actually reside on the Game Boy Color, and even before. While this debut didn't materialize until 2002, the original planning stages for the game actually started way back in 1995 and was intended, at least by the drawing board stages, for the original DMG console. However, no solid concept was concocted by this point, save the most basic of all video game building blocks, a nondescript tile and its movement around a maze. Despite around half a year of conceptualizing, creator Hitoshi Yamagami ended up shelving Starfy, or whatever it was called at that point. The maze thing was seen as being too boring. Instead, he would team with one Yasuhiro Minamimoto, and between them they came up with a more platformer-based affair with quite floaty physics. It was at this point that the rough idea to make the game largely underwater came about, and a starfish protagonist wasn't a massive stretch from that point. This would have been around the turn of 1996, but for one reason or another the direction of the project would change several times further before losing momentum and stalling altogether. However, by the start of 1998, the focus in the world of Nintendo handheld gaming was firmly gearing towards the new Game Boy Color, and with it, a slight rejuvenation of interest on Tosei's behalf regarding Starfy, with development decidedly picking up again. Over the next couple of years, they would put a decent amount of work into getting the old DMG build transferred over to Game Boy Color. Nevertheless, despite appearing at a Nintendo trade show called Space World in 2000 in the form of a playable demo, nothing further would come of it. Despite its prospected December 2000 release date, Nintendo were by then working towards the Game Boy Advance, and so, probably to the immense frustration of the guys at Tosei, the developers were told to shift consoles yet again. Unfortunately, for the super curious like me, it's unlikely that any ROMs of the allegedly playable GBC demo will ever materialize. Sometimes, however, things are worth the wait and the extra work. You begin in the peaceful kingdom of Tenkai, high up in the clouds. Starfy is a young and adventurous starfish who, while juggling treasure, accidentally falls from the sky into the ocean below. The story revolves around his journey to return home, and the friends and foes he encounters along the way. He'll meet Mo the Clam, Starfy's new best friend, who provides plenty of helpful hints, as well as a healthy dose of comic relief. He may come across as a little rude or narcissistic, but it's all in good humor, and he really just wants to help. You'll be trained too by a wise old lobster called Old Man Lobber to harness your starfish skills. Taking place predominantly underwater means that while Starfy fits in the platformer genre, it does so fairly loosely, and the movement mechanics do feel impressively unique. You swim about simply by holding a direction, and can propel yourself faster by pressing A. The control you have over your swimming direction is incredibly fluid and natural feeling. Dashing allows you to push blocks or other maneuverable platforms around, which you'll need to do in order to solve puzzles and access hidden areas. Pressing B allows you to rapidly spin in place, which can be used to knock away enemies or break certain blocks. When deftly combined with your momentum and decent timing, you can gracefully attack on the go. Don't spam it though, because too much spinning in too short a time will make Starfy properly dizzy, and you'll lose control of him for a bit and be vulnerable. It's not all underwater though. When on land, you can run by holding B and jump with A. It might feel a little odd at first for the fast movement to be the A button underwater and the B button on land, but it's better this way as it allows A to be your jump. You know how I feel about B being the jump button in platformers. In the air, you can hold A to glide as well, which, when combined with the extra running speed, can carry you across pretty wide gaps. Skills are augmented as the game progresses too, with stronger spin attacks and such unlocked the more you accomplish. This adds an element of non-linearity, as parts of early levels are at first inaccessible until you've earned the power that might allow you to break certain blocks and so on. You'll start with a generous 5 hit points, and these can be replenished easily by collecting 5 pearls. These are, at first anyway, abundantly placed around the stages, and can even be obtained by smashing blocks and enemies. Collecting enough of these pearls will also gradually reveal images of the friends you've made in between levels, which is a nice little bonus. At the end of each group of levels, you'll fight a boss, and these are brilliant. You might be able to use your normal spinning attacks to get to some of them, but you'll probably have to wait until they're vulnerable, and may well have to combine direct offense with some sort of environmental interaction, say luring one into a spike wall to lower their defenses before slapping them silly. Extra credit needs to go to the game's presentation. 7 years of constant upgrading and refining might have been frustrating, but it definitely ensured the graphical accomplishments would be something else. The charming cartoon aesthetic is on a par with a Kirby title. Gorgeous colors and sprite work that perfectly capture the whimsical and light-hearted tone of the overall story and fully immerse you in this enchanting world. Sinister moments are interwoven into the theme sensitively and only add to the charm, never detracting from it. The music ranges from cleverly considered, upbeat and cheerful tunes to more serene and calming melodies, reflecting the diverse settings and scenarios Starfy finds himself in. You all know I'm an audiophile by this point, and so I always try to highlight really good soundtracks when they show up. But this one is outstanding by whatever metric you choose to measure it. 7 years in the making, and despite all the trials and challenges it took for Yamagami and Minamimoto to get Starfy into players' hands, it's hard to argue against that wait being totally worth it. The game's so perfect a fit for the GBA, not to say that a Game Boy or Color release wouldn't have been. I'm just super glad we eventually got the game in the form we did. Well, I say we. This is another of those bonkers instances when a fabulous title would be withheld from the rest of the world for whatever reason. Out of the 5 Starfy games, we only had access to 1 in the West. Spare a thought for us in Europe, we didn't get any of them. Well, cry no more, the 3 GBA titles have just found their lovely way onto Nintendo Switch Online's Game Boy Advance simulator. It's one of those that you'll need the expansion pack membership rather than just the standard one, but then if you're a Game Boy Advance fan, you should absolutely have that already. Compared to what PlayStation and Xbox charge for their extortionate packages, it's an absolute bargain. $15 a month just so I can play Fallout 4. Get out of here with that garbage, man. Unfortunately, the games still aren't translated into English, so you'll perhaps miss out on a bit of the story, but the gameplay itself is easily intuitive. Besides, those who know how to do such things can download a fan translation patch for the first one and get the full experience. Don't ask me how to do it, please. I'm not allowed to tell you.